One-shots, one-offs, whatever you want to call them, role-playing adventures meant to be played in one session are difficult to design. Or at least for me they are. Reaching a satisfying conclusion in one night can be something many game masters struggle with since we're either running our own campaign or someone else's. We're typically preparing for novels rather than short stories. Add in that a group running a one-shot will often have newer players learning the rules as they play, and typically will have to hurry things along where we otherwise wouldn't. What's the solution to this? I don't fucking know, but I ran a couple of one-shots and I'd like to share one with you. The party suddenly finds themselves in what looks like a throne room. Yes, it's one of those stories. No matter who they are or what they were doing, our players are just teleported to where they need to be with no explanation. No time for backstory, alright? We on a time limit. Before them stands an old man, his extravagant robe and white beard giving him the all-too-cliché appearance of a wizard. His large, toothy smile is not nearly a welcoming one when accompanied by his wide-eyed stare. He throws his arms wide as soon as the party takes notice, and two curiously painted treasure chests appear below his throne. One a light red, the other a deep blue. On the lid of both is a large, festive-looking ribbon. They're birthday presents. They look like birthday presents.
Oh, the guests have arrived,
the wizard exclaims. When questioned about what's going on, he quickly replies,
"Why, I'm your Uncle Finster, and it's my birthday. You done forgotten your Uncle Finster's goddamn birthday?"
No matter what the party says, Finster insists upon his status of uncle.
"Now, for my party, we're gonna play a game. You see, even though it's my birthday, your Uncle Finster thinks the greatest gift is that of giving."
He motions to the blue present.
"Inside these beautiful blue boxes, you'll find all sorts of neat stuff. Weapons, magical items, all the things you adventurer types like to take from dungeons and crap."
He motions to the red present.
"Under the red ribbons, you'll find a trick, a trap, or a treat. Who knows? All kinds of shit can happen."
Suddenly he flourishes, and several portals appear on the edges of the throne room.
"Well, get going. Give us a good show. It is my birthday, after all."
With that, Uncle Finster vanishes. Uncle Finster's birthday, if you couldn't guess, is not the most story-intensive adventure out there. I'll say up front that this is an excuse to play a role-playing game and have fun with the mechanics of it, mostly through a bunch of random stuff happening. I made this originally for Pathfinder, though it could just as easily be adapted for any fantasy-based game. I made it for someone's birthday, thus the birthday theme. I like the theme, but you could also do away with that. This video will mostly be detailing a concept for a one-shot and not all the specifics, so there's a lot of room for creativity here. Uncle Finster's birthday party is more of a starting point than a fleshed-out adventure. When I came up with it, I was thinking of ways to make just a fun game of Pathfinder that could be finished in a few hours. Just so happens I was playing a video game a lot at the time that kind of encapsulated the feeling I was going for: The Binding of Isaac. Roguelikes have exploded in popularity because they provide that feeling of playing a full game in just a few minutes. The items and effects many of these games have serve as our inspiration for Uncle Finster's presence that the players will be encountering. To me, what makes roguelike items roguelike is their random nature. They change the game on the fly and make you rethink your approach. Furthermore, many of these games feature a risk and reward system whereby not everything you pick up will be a benefit to you. The gist of Uncle Finster's birthday party is the party will travel through the various encounters their dear uncle has devised for them, stumbling upon or indeed earning these two kinds of gift boxes. The red boxes are much more plentiful than the blue and are often just found lying around. This is because their effect is going to be completely randomized. I'm talking wild magic kind of shit here. I'm not kidding, sometimes when I run this I use this list of 10,000 wild magic effects to determine what happens when someone opens a red box. If you're not aware, wild magic is a type of spell casting that has a lot of random crap happen when a player casts a spell. These effects are often pretty frivolous and don't really have an effect on the game beyond role-playing, like making the caster apologize to everyone they injure. They can also be pretty useful, like, becoming immortal. And also, the world could blow up. Yeah, I don't use that one often. But the idea is no one knows what's going to happen when someone opens a red box, not even the GM. You might be wondering why players would open these boxes when it's very possible their character could turn to stone, and yes, many won't. This is not a game for certain kinds of players, and this is definitely not a game to put in an ongoing campaign, at least not to the extreme that I make it. But if you play with a group that likes to laugh, that likes to roleplay silly situation and just revel in the goofy shit that can happen in RPGs, I think you'll find them more than happy to open a few red boxes. I tend to use wild magic lists and a random number generator. You will have to do some interpretation on the fly doing this, however, as the person opening a red box is not actually casting wild magic. So if the effect you rolled says something like cast your spell causes the target to turn blue, just turn the player character blue. In these instances, the player is both caster and target of the quote-unquote spell being cast. You could really use any random effect generator or just make your own, however. The important thing is good things can happen, bad things can happen, and hopefully wacky things can happen. Now, the blue boxes won't be just lying around other than the one Uncle Finster lets the players open in the intro just to give them a taste. These will have to be earned, either through battle, puzzles, or whatever you can think up. Inside, players will find more randomness, but this time always in their favor. Blue boxes will be holding a random magical item. Anything from a +1 short sword to a deck of many things. There are plenty of random loot generators out there for several games, and many have rolling tables should you not want to use them. Again, the important thing is, no one knows what's in the box until it's opened. Well, beyond that, it's a magical item. In my games, I tend to just brush over identifying the magic items in this case, mostly for brevity so the players don't spend too much time trying to figure out what an item does. If anyone complains, just have Finster tell them what the items do. And that's basically the gist of it. The game ends when you decide it does, or everyone is dead. If you don't want to hear specific details of how I run this one-shot, you can stop now and start designing your own. You don't have to have Uncle Finster or even have the boxes be presents. But I have found doing some things in a certain way tends to help things be more fun. First of all, this is not a beginner-friendly way to play a tabletop RPG. If you're gonna have to spend half the time explaining rules or how to factor in the new weapons or armor, this will not be a single-session game. Furthermore, it is not a beginner GM-friendly adventure to run. Because we don't know what's in the boxes either, it takes a lot of improvisation and sometimes knowledge of game mechanics. I would recommend characters at whatever level is the sweet spot for your game of choice. For Pathfinder, that's generally around 4 to 7. Just the right level where the players will have choices and cool things that their characters can do, but not so much that combat starts to significantly slow down. Also, I like to make sure player characters start the game with only basic, mundane equipment to make the blue boxes more special. You could really run this with any number of players, but obviously if your goal is to make this a one-shot, the more players, the less time you'll have to get further into the game. The standard 4 works well. Now, as for what Uncle Finster's castle actually holds within it, that's really up to you. Finster is a meta wizard, as in his powers are whatever makes the game more fun. His castle is infinite, connected through portals that only seem to trigger when they need to. Where I started is actually taking more inspiration from the Binding of Isaac. I have several square rooms prepared, though the only thing in them right now are a couple of hidden presents. This is because when the players enter, I'll use a random encounter generation method to generate a random encounter around their level. They'll fight the monsters in this room and get the presents when they win. Then a portal will open, taking them to another square room to fight another random group of monsters, or a special room. Special rooms are encounters or puzzles that I've actually designed. Often I'll use stuff I didn't get to use in another campaign or adventure and throw it in here. Everything in the castle is a simulation of sorts created by Uncle Finster. The creatures and traps therein aren't real, but they can hurt or speak to the players, although I tend to keep the speaking fairly limited. I tend to keep these to one room, but you can do whatever you want here. The important things are to spread a few red presents throughout, reward blue presents for completing whatever the room's goal is, and keeping rooms to encounters that can be completed in at most roughly 20 minutes to an hour. For example, when the players enter a portal, they may find themselves in this room. The place is littered with skeletons and old dried blood stains the floor. In the center, however, is a large basin where an obviously magical flame burns. Surrounding the basin is a series of glyphs that spell out a message. Cast into the fire what you desire. If you desire flight, cast that which you can hold with your left hand, but not your right. Behind the players swirls the portal they entered through. Finally, there lies a single red present. For this room, I've prepared a fairly weak skeleton, you might want to buff him up if you're playing with higher level characters, and 2 blue presents. Obviously, the goal here is to find the solution to the riddle. When they do so, they will receive a blue present and be able to leave. A couple of things could happen here. The flame's purpose is not just to complete the puzzle. Anything the players throw into the fire will have an effect. If they throw in the red present, it'll spit out a blue present. This isn't the solution, but I like to reward players for being curious. I also like to punish them for being curious though, so our little skeleton boyfriend over here is for if they decide to throw any part of the skeletons littering the room into the fire. Every time they throw in a body part, spawn another skeleton to attack them. Generally, the flame will duplicate whatever is thrown into it, but changed. Use your imagination here. Maybe if they throw in one of their weapons, it will come out with a +1 enchantment. Or it'll come alive and attack them, whichever you think would be more fun. Anyway, the answer to the riddle, what you can hold in your left hand but not your right, is your right hand. Depending on your group, they might get this quickly or not. Regardless, hopefully they're at least a little hesitant to put their hands into the magical fire. That's why we keep the portal open for the entire time for this room, whereas for most others we do not. Should the party members try to leave, they'll find they can start to enter the portal, but their right hand is barred from entering at the wrist, just in case they need a tip. Of course, they'll probably do what my group did and throw one of the skeleton hands into the fire, which is when they get attacked. Putting their right hands into the fire doesn't burn them or produce any real reaction until they try to go through the portal, where it will now whisk them away to whatever lies next. How many of these special rooms you use depends on how much time you have and what your players like to do. If they like hack and slash, you could just have the entire game just be square rooms. Or if you don't like random encounters, you can make the game entirely special rooms. The goal here is to have fun and wacky shit happening. Whenever it seems like game night's coming to an end, make whatever room you're on the final one. Their next portal will then take the party back to Uncle Finster's throne room, where Uncle Finster will congratulate himself on a wonderful birthday party. He'll then teleport the party back to their original spots. Or he'll summon a bullet to attack them, whatever you think is more appropriate.